Let's see here. Let me mute everybody real quick. Okay, so David, you are the only one unmuted right now. So you have the floor. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this for us.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you. I appreciate I appreciate being here, and I appreciate the opportunity to help. I know different people are at different stages with their project, and it's never anything that comes to the forefront. It seems overwhelming, and depending on where you are and what you have, what you think you need to do, it can be overwhelming. So what I want to do is break it down and give you some steps that you can take on your own. I'm here to help you if you need, but that's certainly not why I'm here. I'm just here to help people figure out where they are and what steps make the most sense to them. So quick introduction. My name is David McDonough. I own a company called Modern Image, and we're a document and photograph scanning company. So we work on the document side with a lot of law firms, HOAs, business records, that kind of thing. But to me, the passion is in the photos. I'm from New Orleans originally. I wasn't in New Orleans at the time of Katrina, but my parents had a house on the beach in Mississippi, and all of our stuff was there, and it's all lost. So I really get a personal satisfaction out of being able to help people get their stuff organized and put away in a way that they won't lose it, and that they can pass it on in a meaningful way to future generations. So what I did is I printed out, I sent everybody the sheet so that you could have that and make notes. I don't want to, this is all about giving you information. Jerry mentioned, to ask questions, and I would please encourage you. I'm getting more familiar with Zoom, but I'm a very, personable, and I like to move around and talk and engage the audience and everything. So this is kind of weird for me to have people sitting, listening to me. Just, please chime in. This is all about information. This isn't me, going through a prepared speech or anything like that. You're not going to throw me off track. And I don't always have a sense for where the audience needs help. I've spoken at senior centers, I've spoken at different places where, in one place, all the questions are around physical photographs. And in another place, all the questions are around cloud. And I don't know what information people need. And it's good that there's only a few of us here. This is a real intimate meeting. I can hopefully answer a lot more one-on-one questions than if there were 20 people in here. So don't hesitate at all if you have a question to stop me, or if you want me to repeat anything. One of the first things that I start with people, we've got a scanning business, obviously. So people will call me and say, hey, I've got all this stuff to scan. And I say, okay, well, have you looked through it? Have you curated it a little bit? Or, we mentioned earlier, hey, good, I've got these 5 boxes of pictures that hadn't looked through in 20 years. I want to bring them in and get them scanned. And my answer is, well, why? Because then you're going to have 5 big folders of pictures that you never look through. Or you won't know where to look through it. Marge mentioned earlier, that I've got all of these different things in different places. I want to get them all in one place and put them there in a way that I can remember where they are and how to look for them. And that's important. We'll get to organizing later, but there's not just one way to organize it. It really should be oriented around how you're going to remember to go look for them, or how you're going to reference them or share them with people or do whatever. So keep that in mind. But the first thing that I talk to people about is to say that let's look at this 2 different ways. I have a collection of photographs that's every photograph that I own, whether it's digital, physical, whether it was handed to me, whether I took it, whether somebody took it of me and sent it to me, whatever the case may be, we all have a collection of photographs, everything we own. My children care about 5% of those if I'm lucky. It depends on the photograph and everything else. So the thing that becomes important is not for me to protect this collection or to scan everything and hand it to my children or grandchildren and let them look through it. It's for me to help them make those decisions and to go through and think in terms of a photo album. When you're putting a photo album together of a vacation that you've taken, you might have 112 photographs. You might, in the days of physical pictures, if you were like me and you got 5 pictures off of a roll of 36 that were worth keeping, you were lucky. And the other 31, you knew just to leave in the envelope or throw away, because I was never going to want these. I'm going to take these pictures, I'm going to put them in the photo album, and these 3 pages tell the trip of tell the story of the trip to the beach. And that's all I really care about. So I encourage people to think about their collection as everything they have, and then their archive as what's going to tell their story 5 generations from now. Okay, so you've boiled it down. You've taken this very select group of photographs, and you don't have to do it all at once, and it's not an all or nothing thing. You're not going to go pick out the ones you want and throw away the rest. You're going to start to tell your story either around people, events, places, occurrences, relationships, pets, cars, whatever story is important to you that you think tells your complete story. And think 5 generations from now. The children are going to, the children know who's in the pictures. The grandchildren may recognize a few people. 3rd generation, I had a client who came in and she said, I'm just stuck at the point. I recognize now, I've been working with her for a little while. She said, I recognize now that what I need to do is call what I have, is look through and make some decisions and then document that. Either write some documents or make some audio recordings or write on the back of the picture names, dates, places. And we'll go over all of that. It's all in here. But she said, I'm stuck. I'm to the point where I need just some accountability. And I said, oh, bring your stuff in. You can sit in the conference room. We're here. And if you need any help, I'll be right in the other room. And that way you'll know that as soon as you're finished with that, you can go home. She said, great. I love that idea. She came in and I went to check on her and I looked in her trash pile. And I don't know how well you can see it, but this is, it says Artisto Snapshots, album photo service, Rockford, Illinois. And it's a picture of a family sitting in front of a sedan. And it was taken in 1939, May 27th, 1939. And there's another picture of a mother and daughter, and then another picture of the children. And this is Artisto Snapshot. In 1939, somebody went to a lot of trouble and spent a lot of money to have these pictures taken, and they were in the trash pile. And I said, oh, this has got to be a mistake. And she said, I don't know who they are. I don't know if they're my family, if they're my ex-husband's family. She and her ex-husband were estranged, and it was sad. But here is this precious family heirloom to somebody that's no longer has any value. And I asked her if I could keep it and show it as a demo, and she said, please don't let this happen to people. So the first thing I tell people is to go through and look at what you have, look at what's important. There's no names or dates on here. There's no clues as to who these people are. Whether you write on the picture with a felt tip, permanent, get one of those Sharpie fine point that's real, let it dry, make sure it's not going to bleed through, get a felt tip pen. Even better is to get a tablet of paper, write down stories. You can type it in, save it as a PDF document, keep that document, you print it out and put it with the physical pictures. Keep a digital copy in the folder of that document with those pictures, telling the story. I had another client who, right at the verge of the Depression, they got married. They both lived in the Prado area, in Atlanta, and both families well-to-do, a lot of holdings and stock and Coca-Cola and this and that. And they got him a sedan and as a wedding present, and they took a cross-country trip. And here they are standing in front of Old Faithful on October 29th. And they find out, the stock market crashes and they sell the sedan, and both families are wiped out, and they set down roots in Flagstaff. And now that's why part of that family is from Arizona. Well, without that story behind it, it's just a picture of 2 strangers standing in front of Old Faithful. But with that picture, you realize right where they were at that moment in time, and that picture becomes so much more powerful. So really, the advice that I could give you, just if there's anything you take away from here, is to add some context to those pictures so that they do become valuable generations from now. Make sure and tell your story with those. A little bit of a pause. Does anyone have any questions or any comments about anything I've said so far? Okay. Yeah, Randy.
Okay. Yeah. So to pictures with not knowing, it's fun to sit down. The people are still alive, like yes. Parents, to get them to tell you their story. It's really good for them to tell the story, but then I learned so much about parents' childhoods that I didn't know. And so I made this heritage thing. Now the grandkids who didn't really know their grandparents read that and get a better idea. So if the person in the picture or still knows the people in there, it's a really neat experience to get together and have them tell the story. It really is a bonding thing. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. No, that's fantastic. Yes, Cindy. Oh, Jerry, I think Cindy's trying to ask.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, Cindy, yeah,
I'll go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, Cindy.
The felt tip pen writing on the back of the pictures. I had once heard that writing on the back and pen would hurt the pictures. That must not be the case, or it's okay to do that.
No, you have to be very careful. Thank you for asking, because I need to clarify that. Do not use a ballpoint pen. Do
Okay.
not use a big, heavy. If you go to Michael's or if you look online, you can order a specialty type of pen, and they're not very expensive. You just want to make sure, like you said, that it's not, if you use a big fat Sharpie and you write on the back of that, eventually it's going to bleed through. You need to use a fine tip, and they make them that are specifically for photos to write on there.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a great point. I've got a lot of client photos that have writing bleeding through the picture. So you want to make sure to use something that's specifically for photographs.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Randy, did you have a question? Okay. Yeah. So, you know, that's a great point. Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know if Tom and Randy had a question or a comment.
Question.
Yeah.
Ann has a question. Ann has a question, Jerry.
Oh, that's
Hey guys, don't mute yourselves, because I cannot unmute you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you've muted yourself, unmute yourself and let me mute you, because when I click on you, I'm not unmuting you on the Zoom call. So, Ann, do you have a question? Yes.
Thank you, Tom. I wanted to say how important dates have been to me, even in my lifetime. Go back through and look at a dates. It gives you a frame of time to look at, and just makes it a clearer picture and brings it more into focus. So dates are really important to me.
There's a lot of research that I've been picking up on, and I thank you all for bringing that up. There's a lot of research that I've been picking up on that shows that it's a little bit of a weird concept, but there's very few things in our brain that we remember. Okay, what we remember is the last time we remembered it, or the last time we talked about it or looked at something that made us remember it. It's got to be an external stimulus that makes us remember it, for the most part. If it's intensely emotional, if it's intensely life-threatening, there are things that will permanently implant the memory of something on our brains. And the theory is that if you've had a near-death experience and they talk about your life flashing before your eyes, that's your brain going through this filing cabinet trying to see have we ever gotten out of this situation before? What can we do? So when you think about the other part of the memory, the things that we tangentially remember, and how many times have you said this? Oh, I hadn't thought of that in 30 years. I hadn't thought of that day in 30 years, but now that you bring it up, or now that I look at that picture, or now that I see this silverware pattern or whatever, it comes flooding back. So there is an awful lot of research around cognitive memory type of conditions, saying that working with photos, photo therapy, getting them out, talking about them at a senior center with neighbors, with relatives. And you're exactly right. We had a family that brought in a bunch of DVDs that they wanted converted to digital format. And what these were is, they were VHS. And they were a little type, the grandchildren had gotten a camcorder, and this was probably in the early 90s. They had gotten a camcorder for Christmas. And so they ran around interviewing people in the family. And they interviewed their grandparents, and the grandparents got out the photo album about the World War II pictures. They were really curious about World War II. And so the grandparents are giving each other a hard time. He's saying he served here. She was like, you were on a merchant ship. You didn't fight anything. And he's giving her, and they're going back and forth. And it's really just these endearing, heartwarming stories. And they're looking through the photo album telling these pictures. So now they have a videotape of them talking about these pictures in their own words, in their own, their humor comes out, their personalities come out. And it wasn't many years after that they passed away. So now they have this snapshot. We have more technology available to us on these things than we used to carry around in shoulder bags and cameras on one arm and video cameras on the other. And you do all of the rest. We have more technology available to us right now. You can open up that phone. You can find the audio record app you can hit record and you can tell a story about pictures that are in front of you, and then put those pictures in an envelope and mail them to somebody and hit forward and send them that audio recording. And they've got a permanent story in your voice about the pictures that you're looking at. And 5 generations from now, for this family to hear their great grandmother interviewing their great grandmother about what it was like during World War II. I mean, that kind of gives me chills. So think about the stories that you have to tell and the best ways that you can tell them, and think about ways to put them in your voice and involve multi-generations in telling these stories and having conversations around their past. Yeah, Tom.
You know, you were talking about in sending it in a file or whatever. What would also even be good is to record it visually. I mean, you know, film yourself while you're talking.
Right.
And then upload it and then send the file. And then that way they can say Tom when he was years old. And
look how handsome he still was at any age. I'll fill in the blanks for you. No, that's right. I mean, it's right. We have the ability to do things and to capture things in a way that nobody's ever had. And it's really important to take advantage of it. Even Zoom, you can get on a Zoom call and be talking to your grandchildren and hit record and do what I just did, hold pictures up and talk to them and everything else. And it's as simple as that. You don't have to, you don't have to get a tripod and set up the camera and figure out how to save the file and how to move it around and everything else. We've got technology. In the last 6 months, raise your hand if you had participated in a Zoom or a Skype call 6 months ago. I mean, me either. Had no idea. Maybe with grandchildren, maybe with somebody in another city, a family. You know, my kids are all about Snapchat and all about the rest of this. I thought before that I would sooner travel to the moon than I would get on a Zoom call and be talking to anybody over the computer. And now it's easy, you know? So, yeah.
Oops, my question. You said you can record on your phone. Where? I've never done that on my phone. So where do I go?
It depends on Apple or Android. It depends on what apps you have installed. There's an app that came on my phone that's just got a microphone on it. And when I hit it, it makes an audio recording. Now I could also turn the camera on, and I could turn the camera around towards me, and I could just hold it right there, and I could tell the story and then hit pause, you know, audio or video. When you go take the camera, when you go to take a picture, it's either going to be facing out or it's going to be facing back. So get it to face back, put it on video instead of camera, and then just record a short message.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
the other thing I heard you talking about was scanning photographs in and everything. Is it better to like take a photo album, if you have a photo album, and just take a snapshot, pictures of pictures? We've done that before to send to friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could upload the whole page with just photograph and throw it into your, I guess.
Yeah. A scan is just a photograph of a piece of paper or a picture that's taken with a machine that passes it over a lens instead of holding the lens back. I've had people come in with oversized art or with whatever else, and I've sent them over to a photography studio, and he's got an easel set up and he's got the lighting set up, and he takes a picture of it that's better than anything I could ever scan through my scanner. Now, the one thing I will caution you about is you're going to lose a lot of detail. DPI, if you've ever heard that, dots per inch. So when you take a picture, you capture a certain amount of resolution, and it's recorded in DPI. And the more that the picture of a picture, you lose a lot of DPI. Most of the time, it doesn't matter if it's just, hey, look, remember this picture from Halloween 20 years ago? Isn't that hilarious? The costumes we were both in. Now, if you're sending a portrait of yourself to your grandchildren and they're going to want to print it out, or they're going to want to make a copy or blow it up or do something with it, they're not going to get a good result. So my answer is yes. That's for a lot of things, that may be the easiest and the simplest, the quickest way to get it done. But keep in mind that you're going to use resolution. So make sure you have an idea of what people are going to use it for, because it's virtually impossible. I can fix a crease across a picture that's physical damage with Photoshop, but I can't raise the resolution of a picture. and give you a picture. If you give me a low resolution picture, I can't give you back a high resolution picture that you could blow up and print. That's the only difference. But that's a great point. I mean, if it's just a question of, you know, being real careful and lining it up and taking a picture of it, it's you know, that's a good stand-in. So, but it may be, you know, for a lot of people, scanning is not the place to start. I'm not here to advertise what I do. I'm here to help people take a step or two or three and understand where they are and what things are available to them. And a lot of times scanning is not the place to start. We scan after people have it organized. They have a sense for what they're doing and why they're doing it. And we're accomplishing a goal rather than just get this box out of the hall closet. Get this box out of the hall closet. It's, you know, a bunch of money and it's a bunch of pictures nobody cares about. Sooner or later, somebody's going to have to get rid of them. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy to have thousands and thousands of pictures in digital format. The record for the most pictures of any of my clients is a lady that's got 3.9 million photographs. 3.9 million photographs. And Marge, I think it was you that showed, or it was, who was it? I made a note. Randy, you showed me the photo stick. And Marge, you said, I've got them on SD and I've got them on this and this and this. What do I do? She came in, bless her heart, came in with a shoebox. She had 97 flash drives, 51 SD cards, 3 hard drives, 3 external hard drives. She had 5 laptops, 4 telephones. She had a Dropbox account. She had a Snapfish account. She had a Google Photos account. She had an iCloud account. She had, I mean, she traveled for 40 years, 30 years. She traveled Habitat for Humanity, Peace Corps, AmeriCorps. She traveled the world. She's got some fascinating pictures in there. But we have 12 pictures of an entree before she sat down for dinner. You know, we have 3 pictures of the wait staff. We have a picture of the way they folded the napkin in her hotel when she got back, and they had the towel all folded up a different way. And, you know, bless her heart. But when she goes to hand those to future generations, they're not even going to know where to start. So the next thing, following kind of loosely along the handout on page 3, and I'm sorry I don't have page numbers, I don't think, is the title on the head of the page is Organizing Photos with the GASP Method. And I came up with a cute little acronym to talk about the different steps. And the first is gather. And Marge, you were on the right track. I've got all this stuff. I've got some paper. I've got some physical. What do I do? You got to get them all in one place. And that's not to say that you have to scan everything because that place has to be digital. That's just to say that you have to understand what's on this flash drive and in this shoebox. Because somewhere between this flash drive and this shoebox, you're going to put your archive together. Okay, so whether it's digital, whether it's physical, whatever else. Marge, to your point, if you've got a bunch of different physical, digital media, the best thing you can do is get all of that into one place digitally so that you're not bouncing around between accounts and making copies and moving stuff around. So depending on how many you have, Dropbox may be a good option. We've got some cloud space that's available. You know, there are free things that are available. And we'll talk about that in more detail when we get to the digital part. But Marge, to your point, if they're all digital, get them in one place digitally. If they're all physical, get them in one place physically. Dining room table, you know, spare bedroom, bed, wherever it happens to be, we're going to lay these out and we're going to start to figure out what goes into the archive and what stays in the collection. Okay, so remember, we're not throwing anything away yet. We're not making value. We are making value judgments, but they're not permanent. We're just making a first pass. Think if somebody laid out all of my pictures on the dining room table and they said, throw away the pictures of your children you don't want, I wouldn't throw away a single picture. But if they came to me and they said, okay, you've got an hour, or you've got, fill up this box, or count to, you know, get 100 pictures, some limit. Think making photo albums. Think of think of when you make photo albums. You've got a constraint on you that's either time, number, size, whatever the case may be. And all you're doing is making a first pass. And you're saying this one, definitely. This one, maybe, maybe not. Let me leave that there for now. This one, absolutely. And then you're finished. And then you put all the rest of that away and you leave it. You just put it out of sight, out of mind. And for right now, that part of the program is finished. And you may go back to it and you may not. But now I've got the archive. So now we've got to figure out what to do. Now, the ones, I'm going a little bit out of order. We're going to gather them first. We're going to archive. We're going to pull out everything we want in the first pass, and then we're going to store. And these are the ones, and we'll talk about physical storage later. These are the ones that we're putting on the shelf for right now. And then pitch. There are certain pictures, whether you want them in your collection or your archive, there are certain pictures you can look at and say, I can throw this away today. It's okay. Either it's not a good picture, it's fuzzy and no one will ever want it. Maybe it's not flattering to somebody in the picture. Maybe there's an ex-husband or an ex-wife, or there's, you know, some kind of dynamic that just that picture's never going to be comfortable for anyone, or maybe it will. Maybe that's a reason to keep it, you know. But I've sort of gone through some different scenarios that give you permission to throw a picture away if it's not going to be meaningful to anyone. Keep in mind, you don't have to. It's real easy to store them. All I'm trying to do is get the 5 Rubbermaid containers down to 1. And that's the collection. That's what's going to stay over there. I've already cherry picked it and I've got the archive over here, but I'm just not ready to throw away the Rubbermaid containers. Now, next generation, when I pass away and I tell my children, the archive is in Dropbox and in this little box in the shelf in the front hall closet. The rest of that is just garbage. If you want to thumb through that real quick as you're leaning over a garbage can just to make sure that there's nothing I missed, I'm pretty confident that there's nothing in there you want. I had no reason for me to throw them away. They just sat in 2 different containers. I've got my archive container over there with the pictures of my grandparents that my mom gave me and the old, you know, the stuff. Even if I scan it, I don't want to throw it away. I'm just going to keep it because it's a Dog-Era type, a tin type. It's on some media that I think my great-grandchildren are going to be interested in this. So I'm going to keep it physically, even though I have it in my digital archive. Okay. But that gives them permission to throw it away. And they don't have to spend weeks and weeks and days and going through these boxes and pictures and everything else trying to find anything significant. My grandfather took a lot of slides. He was an oil man in Texas. And Ansel Adams wasn't around. National Geographic wasn't around, and he'd come back and they would pull out the martini pitcher and they would shake up some martinis and they'd pull the screen up and the slide, and we'd look at 80% of these wonderful nature shots. He was an amateur photographer and he was really good at it, and I hadn't seen those pictures before. Neither had the neighbors, my parents. We'd just all sit around and look at the slides. 50 years later, I've got an awful lot of amateur Ansel Adams slides. We were able to save about 10% out of that slide collection. And unfortunately, there are people in the slides we don't recognize. We're trying through older relatives, aunts and uncles, trying to put some of the pieces together. But the point is, no matter what media they're on, certain of them are valuable and should be kept and maintained and documented. And certain of them, it's okay to let them go. All right. I know that's hard for a lot of people. You know, I was a very goofy looking child. So Katrina actually did me favors. All of those childhood pictures are gone. I don't have to explain to my children, you know, what was going on with the haircuts in the 70s and the strange clothes and everything. But, you know, it's okay. There's, for a lot of people, like I said, in a roll of 36, if I got 5 pictures out of it that were worth keeping, I was way ahead of the game. So we're going to shift gears again. Does anybody have any questions or any comments, anything about what we've covered so far? Okay. This also counts towards digital pictures. Marge, it's real important to get, once you get the, you know, the number of pictures that you have on these different media, even if they're all in one place, be real selective about the ones that you carry over, keeping both. Call one the collection with all these folders in there and one the archive with all these folders in there. Okay, and that way, and don't keep copies in both. Keep them in one place or the other with the notion that the archive is what's going to survive and the collection's eventually going to be deleted. And what you're trying to do is make sure nothing in the collection should be in the archive. Okay, but don't get into a situation where you're making 2 copies and keeping this and that and the other. I've got plenty of people that come to me and say, you know, I've probably got 10,000 pictures on this flash drive, but there's probably only 1,000 of them that are unique. The rest are duplicates. And that happens all the time. Someone will have gotten physical pictures scanned to a DVD and then the DVD to a flash drive, and then the flash drive gets backed up on this computer and they bring me the pictures and the DVD and the flash drive and the computer. So try and keep it streamlined and understand where it is. How many people, quick show of hands so I know how much time to spend on this next topic. How many people struggle with digital pictures, folders, how to organize them, how to do anything with that? Is that a mystery or is that okay? Okay, good, good. I mean, not good. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I can help. That's the good part. I can help. Marge made a comment earlier. Okay, it's great. I get them all together and I do that, but then how am I going to remember? Where am I going to
David,
know?
I think Ann had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, this might sound very ignorant, but you keep referring to digital photos.
Yeah.
I know of physical photos I can look at and photos on my phone.
That's digital.
Digital is the ones I have on my phone.
Yep.
That's what I needed.
Perfect. Perfect. So when you take a digital picture, what it does is instead of printing the image on negative that you go get developed and make a physical picture, it saves what's most typically called a JPEG file. It can be in other formats, but most typically pictures are going to be in JPEG. And that picture is now stored in memory on your phone. Okay, so if you go to look, you want to share screens, Jerry? You want to let me share screens, and maybe it'll be easier for me to go through this part and actually show instead of just talking about it. Y'all will get to see, even though I said
I think I have it set up for one person to share, so you should be able to.
Okay, let me see what I got here. All right, how's that look? Does this look familiar? Let me move this. Whoa, I hate computers. Okay, move this over here. I'm going to be looking this way because I have two monitors set up. But is everybody looking at this File Explorer window with this desktop and all the rest of this? Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I have it set up. Now, Marge made a great point. How am I going to know where to go look for them? Okay, so take what I'm about to tell you with a grain of salt, because the answer to, I get the question all the time, what's the best way to organize these photographs once they're scanned? And my answer is the way that it's going to be most familiar to you, the way that you're going to know the quickest and easiest where to go look for that picture. That may be organized around vacations. That may be organized around years. That may be organized around a beach house or a mountain house or a person or whatever else the case may be. Keep in mind that the best way for you to organize your photographs is the way that you're going to know to go look for them. Okay, so what I'm about to show you is a hybrid between years and events and places. Because if I think, we always spent my Thanksgiving at my parents' house. And I think, wow, I remember that time at Thanksgiving where my son crawled into the planter and nobody knew where he was. And we looked over and there he was in this Chinese planter over on the thing. We took a picture real quick and it was the funniest thing in the world. And I want to send him that picture. True story. It was hilarious. And so but I don't know if it was, 93, 92, 91. I don't remember what year it was, but I know it was Thanksgiving. There are events. I know it was my daughter's 6th birthday. So I know to go look in, 2005 and 2001 in her folder and find out exactly where it is. So I know that's a little bit tricky to keep up with and I talk fast, but let me see here. If I go to here and here and then here, and then here's my pictures. Okay. So I've got possible copies. This is, cobbler's kid has no shoes, right? This is something I need to go through and figure out where all these other duplicates are. I was born in 1966. This is 1970 and earlier. These are parents that, these are pictures that my grandparents had, my parents, other things. I've gotten them from cousins and aunts and uncles out of town. 1986 to this is when I was in college. This is, just a handful of them earlier. And then here's where I start having children. Okay. And so all of a sudden I go from one picture covering 5 years. I mean, from one folder covering 5 years to all of a sudden I've got all these different folders in here. Okay. And then I get down here and I have my second child and
Hey,
I've got,
David,
yeah.
we're not seeing what you're talking about, I don't think, are we, guys?
How's
Right.
that?
There you go.
Okay.
Better.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Let me back up. So here's my pictures. And I've got a folder, a handful of these. When it comes to digital pictures, the thing you want to keep in mind is you want to have a good balance between the number of pictures in a folder and the number of folders you have. Okay, so if you've got 1,000 pictures, you don't want 2 folders with 500 each in them. But you don't want 500 folders with 2 in each one and have to be digging around through folders the whole time. And I recognize that this that I have can be streamlined a little bit. But I'll show you kind of the theory that I was going with when I put these together. Is that here are all of these when I'm younger and I'm just not taking that many pictures, you know, primarily vacations or pictures that other people took of me. And again, all our stuff's out to Katrina, so that may be why too. But then I start having children and I've got all of these different folders in there. And this is just at different times. I would plug my computer into my phone and download them all. Or if somebody emailed me a picture or whatever, I knew where to go put it in there. When I start having 2 children, now I've got some, you know, where even in the month, I've got multiple pictures. But again, the thing that you want to do is make sure to have a good balance, you know, 50, 60 pictures or so in each folder. You don't want to have a ton of folders to have to go look through. Now I get down here, and this is where we get into more of events type of stuff. You know, this is where I'm going to know to go to look for this based on the date, based on the event, not the date. Okay, so when you go to set up these folder structures, just keep in mind how you're going to go look for them and what you're going to do. And that's what these next 2 pages talk about. This on the right is a picture of what you're looking at. And on the left is just, you know, hopefully some tips and tricks that'll help you figure out how to set up folders for your digital pictures. Okay. Just check the back page. Now I know that's a lot of content, and that still probably leaves a lot of questions. But does anybody have any comments, observations, specific questions right now? Yep.
What's going to be the best way? Like, I have a lot from earlier years of my children that are in the regular physical pictures. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing I'm going to need to go through all those and then scan and then archive like that. Is that what you'd suggest for those?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Will you get to, when you're talking about the scanning, whether or not it's good to put so many on a page, or what the best way for scanning is? And I don't know, like with your business, then how you do it, if you can do it in an album. I mean, kind of speak to that, if you will, with whether or not it's good for individual. I don't know. Hopefully this makes sense what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, Tom asked earlier, is a photograph a good, reasonable facsimile of a scan? And my answer is yes. And my answer also is that most of us have a 3-in-1 copier sitting over in the corner of the room, and you can raise it up. And if you put a picture on that flatbed, it's going to be as good as the scan that I make of that picture back here. As long as the settings, as long as it's set up properly, and as long as it's clean and you know, everything else, it's not rocket science. I'm here to help people when they need it. But if it's a project you want to do on Saturday afternoons with a relative, I will absolutely help you figure out. You could go to Office Max and get a 3-in-1 printer for probably $20 or $30. Another thing I tell people, if you say you do have a couple of Rubbermaid containers and you you know, you honestly want to scan them all for whatever reason, who am I to say that that's not the thing? I can point you to a device on eBay. I can help you buy it. You go buy the photo scanner on eBay, and this is a multi-feed scanner where they just kind of go nicely through. And then 6 months from now, when you're finished the project, you put it back up on eBay and you'll probably get about the same thing that you paid for it. You know, it's a commodity. It's like a copier. So this is absolutely a fantastic do-it-yourself project. And I would be thrilled if that's the only thing that I did, is help you learn how to do that and never sent you a single invoice. Yeah.
So David, when you're saying 3-in-1 copier, just so everybody knows, you can scan from your computer on your copier back into your computer.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
okay,
does everybody know that there's a way to scan photos or documents, anything, right, to bring them into your computer to save them in a file, a digital file?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. When I say 3-in-1, I mean print, copy, or fax. So, and you can set those to where they will make you a fantastic image of the color picture, and then you save that back to your computer. Yep. Tom?
So yes, if you do have an album with pictures in it, I don't know whether taking the page of the album down on your, would it be easier to scan that whole page in? The picture, would you get a better quality taking it out of the album and placing say 6 pictures and doing the whole page up, scanning the whole page up, and that.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I've seen it done both ways, and I'll tell you a little bit about the difference, and then you'll be able to figure out which is better. On the one hand, some people have 6 pictures stuck in a photo album with no apparent connection, no notes, no anything else, and it's truly just a photo album. And they want to, take them out of there, and they want 6 different images out of there. Now, when you switch gears and think of it more as a scrapbook made up with pictures, and I've got a page of 6 pictures on here, and there's notes written in the margin, and there's an arrow written over here and some other stuff, and maybe there's a stamp or a matchbook or a menu from the hotel or something else. That, if the story there is those 6 pictures on that page. The story on the other one is 6 individual pictures that in a certain order tell a certain story. So my answer would be that it's going to be, if you brought them to me, it would be less expensive for you to take them out of the things, hand them to me, and let me scan them. It'd be easier for you, likewise, to do them that way at home. You'll get a better image than if you're taking a large image of a large, thing, especially if there's a clear plastic sheet that goes over it. But if you peel that clear plastic sheet that goes over it and put that down on the scanner, you might end up leaving a little bit of residue on there. So it's kind of tricky. You've got to clean them up a little bit. A lot of the older photo albums that I've seen, when you pry that plastic page off of the top of the thing, you can't close it back. You can't put the pictures back in there. You can't reassemble it as a photo album. But I know, Randy, I saw the shock in your face. Don't worry about it. We had people who had a vacation home in the mountains in North Carolina. And the guy said, I'm taking a huge risk sneaking these things down to you anyway. We've got 6 different branches of the family. And if I get caught bringing these things out of the house, I'm going to get slaughtered. I definitely want these things back in albums. And I said, get permission from your family to bring them to me and go get new photo albums from Michael's. And once we're finished scanning them, you can put them together in new photo albums and put them back up next to the fireplace so that when people come visit, they have something to pull down and flip through. But you're not going to get the old photo albums put back together with the pictures in them that are going to stay. That adhesive is broken. Chances are it's not acid-free paper anyway. If it's older than about 1980, late 80s, early 90s, it's probably not acid-free paper. And over time, it's going to wick the color out of the paper itself and just make those pictures fade. So if it's framed, if it's in a photo album, a scrapbook, if it's in, if I've seen people bring in pictures and they say, well, I can't imagine why this is faded. I've had it sitting between these 2 pieces of cardboard safely in this box the whole time. And I said, it's the worst thing you could do. That cardboard is just drawing the color out of that paper. Any kind of tape, any kind of residue. And this is a great segue. Tom, I think people are going to think we're working together. The next thing is storing physical photos. Yep, Ann? Jerry, I think that
I have albums, individual albums set up for all of our kids, all of our grandkids that I've maintained. Why I want to put those in folders on my computer when I already have them ready for them to receive?
You absolutely do not. There is no reason in the world you would go to that trouble. Give them to them. They will cherish them. They will love those, and they will hang on to those. And at some point in the future, they may decide to scan them so that they can bring them in with their digital pictures and give them to their grandchildren. But what you've done is a beautiful thing, and they will absolutely love those. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that answer, thank you, Ann, for asking that, because I have, I did creative memory scrapbooking for years. I have a ton of albums made, plus the ones that I've made for my grandkids. And at first I thought, David, you were sort of indicating that everything should be scanned and put into files on the computer. And do I want to do that? That would be such a massive amount of time. So I think I'm good with, before I started taking all my pictures on my phone, letting those hard copy things do what you did, Ann, and give them to them, save them so that we can sit there and look through them. But once all my pictures started being taken with my phone and downloaded onto my computer, I have printed out virtually none of those. So that, and I'll go to what you were saying, David,
Yes.
and organize them that way.
The only problem with that is, and it happened between my brother and I when our parents passed away, had different albums, and it was like, well, some of the pictures that he took, I would like to have had.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So it's kind of, especially if you have 4 children like we do, how do you decide who gets what album book?
well,
And they can sit down and determine that, which is what my brother and I did, but there's still pictures that he has that I wish and I guess I can go get them now and re-upload them.
Yeah.
When we were little kids, growing up,
Yeah.
different albums contain different years, I guess, of pictures of vacations and what have you,
Yeah.
that I would like to share with my children of my youth from besides this one book that I have, or 2 books I haven't really have. Anyway,
And that's one of the limitations. That's one of the advantages to moving towards a hybrid system, but where everything is digital too. And I'll just, I'll say this is that, sorry about that. Is that one of the things that I caution people about, and we'll talk about it when it comes to storing physical photos, is that if that's the only place that photo exists, you run the risk of losing it. If you come home and even, natural disasters, my kids got so irritated with me when I would point it out, but whether it was wildfires, tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever else, I'd say, watch. The first person they're going to interview, the first thing they're going to talk about is the pictures. And my kids would say, no, what are you talking about? In a wildfire. And they say, oh yeah, I've got everything that's valuable to be crammed back in the car. And they look back and he's got 4 boxes of pictures stuffed in the trunk. And another person said, oh, I'm in my RV and we're at, Atlanta Motor Speedway and we're about to go west to Talladega because now it's coming up north. And he said, well, why are you moving? He goes, I got everything that's important to me. I got my family, I got my pictures, I got everything. All the rest of it's just stuff sitting at the house. I don't care about that. And they just, every time it would come on, they'd be like, Dad, cut it out. We get it, So there is, there's sharing and there's the security of it. But Ann, to your point, that's for later generations. Let them worry about that. Just give them what you've got with love and let them enjoy it. I will
Marge had a question too. Marge.
I'll encourage one thing and then stop. As you take those photo albums, make sure that there's words in there that back up what those pictures are. So.
Marge, did you have a question?
I did. This is because I'm like a rather expedient person. So to make life a lot easier, would you pick out either like Dropbox or Google Photos, take all your digital things, get them there in the cloud, and then start creating the folders, dragging and dropping them into the folders the way they need to go, deleting what you need to do, and renaming those numbers into what you want it to be. Is that like the most expedient way to do this?
Yes, spot on.
Okay.
And I would say that depending on how many pictures you have, Dropbox, you have a free account up to a certain amount.
Yeah, I have a Dropbox.
Okay, so what you can do is clean those as you put them in. Instead of trying to put everything in there and then clean it up, clean them as you put them in. Put the flash drive in, just copy the ones over you want to keep. If there's any you don't want, just get rid of them at the time you're copying them over and organize them at the time you're copying them. And then make sure and get rid of all of that media so that you don't keep the copies of those. Dropbox, and I'll tell you real quick, does anyone have any questions before? I've got 2 more things and I think we're up against time, so I don't want to go too long or keep anybody stuck. Yeah.
So you're going to talk about maybe which is better. Do you have preference for Dropbox or Google, or which one you like?
We'll cover that in just a minute.
Okay.
Yep. Anybody? Okay. Storing physical pictures. A lot of this is fairly obvious. Some of it we've covered. And it's all on here, so I'm not gonna bore you with reading to it. No acid free. Make sure it's in a climate controlled environment. Don't seal the container like a vault. There's moisture in the paper, and probably not here as much as New Orleans, but you will end up with some mold issues if there's not kind of circulating and able to have, you know, all of this stuff, the storage containers, the physical storage. I feel like this is really, you know, detailed fairly well. And then I turn the page and I see digital storage, and I've only got one paragraph. So I realized that I need to expand on this a little bit before I put it out as a handout. But it changes so much, honestly. You know, when I first started doing this, Google Photos wasn't a thing. A lot of people were using Shutterfly. A lot of people were using, you know, just different types of cloud storage. It was expensive. Now storage is practically free. I will tell you this. You asked me if I had a favorite, and I sort of do and I sort of don't, but my favorite is the one that's the most familiar and the safest for you to use. So if you're all familiar with the Apple universe, iCloud is hands down the way to go. If you work in the Google world and you're comfortable there, no question about it, Google is the way to go. Both of those have their limitations. Google talks about free storage, but the fine print is that once you get over a certain amount of storage, they're going to reduce the resolution of all of your pictures to take less space. Okay, so I can take a scan of a picture that's low resolution and say it takes up 85 megabytes. And I scan that at 100 DPI, dots per inch. Now, if I scan that at 1200 DPI, I'm going to have a huge file, okay? The more files that I have, the more photos that I have in Google, eventually they're going to cap my storage, and they're going to cut the resolution of all of my photos so that I can still have my free storage, but it's not just blowing up for Google. And they'll keep reducing my resolution. And for most people, it doesn't matter. But I have a feeling in the future, there's going to be some really irritated people when they realize that the quality of their pictures is not the quality of the picture that they put into Google to store it. iPhone comes out with enhancements. Apple has a new release every so often. One of the new enhancements, one of the spiffy new things that they did to improve the Apple experience is make it more difficult to get your pictures out of your phone. Okay, it used to be that when you plugged your phone in and you looked, you saw a folder that DCIM on your camera. And when you plug your camera into your laptop or your computer, you ought to see it pop up in that folder structure thing that I was just showing you. And if you need help with this, let me know. It's so easy to do. And through a Zoom call, we can share screens. I can help you. We can really get it done very quickly without any invoice, without any questions. No, happy to help you do it. But it used to be that when you plugged it in, you'd see that DCIM, and then you would see a folder with a date on it and another folder with a date on it. And those were all of your pictures. And all of these folders with dates on them, like I just showed you, it made all the sense in the world. But it made it easy for people to leave iCloud, iPhoto, and go somewhere else. So in the enhancement in iCloud 10, Google now takes all your photographs and throws them into this random set of folders that has nothing to do with when they were taken. The titles don't make any sense at all. They said they did it for security reasons, as if they were having a big problem with people hacking into your phone and stealing your photos because they could now tell which date they were taken. So there's not one that's better or the other. What I would say to answer your question is that there's a combination of them that probably works for everybody. And what you ought to do is you ought to have your telephone hooked up to Dropbox or to iCloud or to Google Photo or to somewhere, so that if I'm on a whale watching trip and the whale breaches and I take the picture and then the phone goes over the side of the boat, that picture's already saved. It goes to the cloud right away. It's synced right away. And that way, when you get home and you plug your phone, you look at all your stuff that's in Dropbox. And in Dropbox, and I talk about it a little bit on this last page, now I'm syncing my phone with the computer. I'm syncing my phone with my cloud storage so that when I take the picture, it's preserved. But the risk that I run there is that I'm going to be sitting there telling, hold on, let me show you this picture of my kids. And I'm the one doing this. And what, just to say, y'all can't believe this picture. It's so cute when he was in this planter. Just give me 1 second. And by then, I mean, people are so sick of me trying to find this picture and do this. And I can't, I've got the same problem on my phone. I got so many pictures on my phone, I don't even know what to do with them. So a good strategy is I've got my phone here. And when I take the picture, it comes into Dropbox. And it goes into a current pictures, and it goes into a frequent, and I've got a current and a frequent pictures in my Dropbox. And I'm using Dropbox as a landing place for my photos, for my new incoming photos. If someone emails them to me, texts them, if someone hands me a flash drive, I can put it in, save it to Dropbox, and there they are. And then I've got my folder of frequent pictures. And that's the pictures of my kids that I show all the time, and my pets, or my house, or my whatever event. I know which pictures I go to fairly regularly. I'm gonna put those in a separate folder. And in my current pictures, I'm gonna look through that occasionally, and I'm gonna say, okay, garbage, 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 garbage. There, everyone was looking. That's the one I wanna keep, and I'm gonna move that into my archive somewhere. And Dropbox is fine. But the notion is that you wanna be able to know where they are and move pictures around through this different hybrid use of cloud options that are available. And if what I'm saying sounds like it's in Chinese, please call me, because it's very easy for us to get onto a Zoom call and look at each other's screen and let me slow down and break it down. But the goal, you know, forget all of the technology and forget all of the platforms and the options and everything else. The goal is to be able to take a picture that you like, put it somewhere that you can show it to somebody very easily, and make sure that it's somewhere else that in future generations, they're going to have that picture. And if I can help you get to that place and pull things out of your collection, whether it's physical, digital, whatever else, whether you do it, whether I do it, my goal is so that if we all go on vacation tomorrow and we come back in 2 weeks and a tornado has taken the house away, that I can breathe a sigh of relief, because all of that stuff is safe, you know, and I know where it is. And that's if there's, you know, and that does get to your point, Ann, a little bit about, like, it sounds like you're telling us that what we need to do is scan all this stuff. And that's part of me in the back of my mind wants that to be your goal too. But a big part of me recognizes that a lot of people, no matter age, no matter whatever else, that's not their goal. So my goal is to help achieve your goal. And your goal is to document these things and put these things that you've already got together and hand them on to the next generation. And I applaud you for that. That's fantastic. Let them take the next step. Let them decide to do what with it later and everything else. This is my story in my hands, and this is my story of you in my hands, and they will cherish that forever.
David, I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm sure all of you, I mean, it sounds great to me when he's talking about using the multiple. I do use Dropbox, but I don't use multiple cloud storage. So I'm sitting here going, okay, well, there's our next class on photo storage, because I'm hoping the rest of you are kind of like me here, where I know just enough to be dangerous with everything I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just one second, guys, I'm unmuting you guys. And there we go, just saying, sorry. And the only other thing I wanted to add, you know, listening to everybody's questions and things like that, I guess really the end goal is just what you want to do with the pictures. Because if, like we were talking about scanning photo sheets, album sheets, well, if I want to send a particular picture to several family members, I might not want to send a whole sheet. I might just want to send one picture.
Right.
So that's why, you know, going to Ann's point, it's great to have the photo albums per child. And my mother did the same thing. We all have one. But I would love to have some of the pictures she put in my siblings' books, like you were saying, Tom. Not all of them, but a few of them.
Me.
Right, just of Tom. Because they also have these great ways that you can just, you know, the digital photo frames, or you can do it on your computers now too, and you can just have pictures running of your family all the time. I love stuff like that. So again, everybody has to just know what their own end game is with what they want to do with their pictures, right?
One of
Marge
these that
has
never
one
took
too.
it out of the box.
Yeah.
Those are so easy, Marge. They're so easy. You just plug that flash drive right into the side of it, and it'll roll through whatever you want.
And I just want to share one more thing that my mother started doing. So she is not tech savvy at all, just, you know, whatever, but she does have a smartphone. She puts every picture she takes on Facebook, almost every picture, good ones, right? And every year she orders the Facebook photo album, and it allows you, it will create an album for you of all your favorite pictures. So now she has, since Facebook has been around, what, 8 years now, long ago, she has an album of every year of all her favorite pictures, because she likes a hard copy to look through the book. But she also has a digital copy of it because she's put it on Facebook.
Yeah, I found one of the hardest things to do at one time, you know, Randy was talking about, she used to scrapbook.
Now I do photo albums on the.
mounds of work or whatever to do it.
They were
Make
parties.
these pretty pages and all this. And all I wanted was an album to look at later on in life. So I was going home, capturing pictures, but I was doing like years worth and sending them to the Walmart or whatever, going out there and picking up my pictures, and ended up having a book of 1 year, one album book of 1 year of pictures that I had gone through. But you're talking about time-consuming process of going into these files that are on the computer and trying to dress it up and
Well, you
pick
didn't
out
put them
those.
in any order, and you didn't caption any of them.
I didn't capture any of them, like you said, but I did have
Caption.
the year, one whole year, and I said, see, this is what I'm talking about. Where I get old, I want to sit down and then you can pass this book on to
You didn't
the
put
kids.
anything.
One thing I did with pictures, if I have a picture with, we have 4 kids. If I had a picture with all 4 of them in, I made 4 copies and put one in each one of, so, you know, that all the albums reflect not only that person, but their siblings, if the picture was of them. So it includes all of them. And I do the same thing with my phone. Pictures I take on my phone, I make copies at Walmart or Walgreens and put them in their albums. So I have it all in one place, really.
That's, oh, go ahead.
Randy.
Question.
Cindy.
I know we haven't addressed this today, probably another whole subject, but on the videos, did I hear you say that your company does those?
Yeah.
As well.
Yep, video, Super 8, the micro cassettes, VHS, VHS-C, Betamax, practically any format.
Is it possible, man, I'm talking maybe 35 or so, it's kind of like the lady who had the 34 million copies of pictures, but if I had like 35 of these, I don't want, I want some way to be able to just only make short segments of some things.
Yeah.
Is
How,
that?
how technically savvy are you on the computer?
1
to 10, maybe a 4?
Yeah, 4 or 5 probably.
Perfect. I can show you how the easiest way to do it is for me to make a single video of the entire tape and then show you how to go in with the software and figure out where to stop it and where to start it.
Okay.
If that gets confusing, we can do it for you, but I would just have to charge you for it. For a lot of people, once they get comfortable with it, especially if you have 35 tapes, it would be a significant difference. But once you get comfortable making little segments, and you know, I'll admit my children showed me how to do it a couple of years ago, so it's really not that difficult at all. They were in 3rd and 4th grade. You know, they had to take a video and then they had to chop it up and put sound over it and do all the rest. For some class they were I was looking at it and thinking, that is amazing. So, but it's really easy. I've figured it out since then.
Okay.
Very good.
Any other questions, please? I think we'll have to have him back and continue the storage
Anytime y'all want.
discussion.
Anytime y'all want. I really enjoy it. I wanted to, you know, Randy, I had a ton of questions for you about the photo stick, and we never got a chance to even talk about that. I want to order one of those myself just so I can talk to people about it and see how it works.
It at least
I
put it
thought
in.
I thought I lost it actually
That's
and found it, thank goodness.
Good.
I'm not sure what I'm gonna do or how to do anything with it. But
yeah.
it
Well, and that's
pulled them from all different places on my computer and put them in chronological order and threw out duplicates if I had the same picture in different places.
yeah.
So it did take a long time to do it. And I got the biggest one that I could because I really wasn't sure how much room I needed. I do not think I can add to this now. I'd have to then get another photo stick in for future.
Huh.
Delete them.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. But I got them.
Well, I'm going to order one of those and play with it because that's something I should know about. I appreciate you bringing that up.
This is the one that I got.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yep. Yep. Gotcha.
What's the name of it?
The Photo Stick 2.0. I guess that's what it's called.
Mhm.
Wait, where are we? There. Can you see it?
Yeah.